Tokyo Joe from 1949 tells the story of Humphrey Bogart as the character Joe Barrett. He's an ex-pilot who has returned to Tokyo following the Second World War. He goes to this closed nightclub, Tokyo Joe's, which he had previously owned and operated with his partner Ito, played by Teru Shimada. There's a brief scene of the two as they do some judo together for old time's sake, before Joe discovers from Ito that his wife, Trina, played by Florence Marley, whom he had believed to be dead, is actually alive and living nearby. Well, he rushes off to find her, but discovers that she has since divorced him and remarried a businessman, Mark Landis, played by Alexander Knox. Well, Joe is determined to win her back, so he tries to find a way to extend his 60-day visitor's visa there in Japan. Ito connects Joe with Japanese businessman Baron Kamara, played by Sesowa Hayakawa, who helps him work operating a small freight airline carrying delicious treats such as frozen bullfrogs. Kamara, however, has another scheme going on and reveals that he can reveal that Trina had made propaganda broadcasts during the war for the Japanese, something Joe later discovers that she had been coerced into because the Japanese had taken her daughter from her. So Joe's getting blackmailed here. He's in quite a pickle, especially when he discovers that he will eventually be flying war criminals back to Japan as part of a potential insurgency against the American occupation. So what will happen as Joe is now stuck here in the grip of the Japanese underworld and also has the American authorities closely watching him as well? Well, that's enough of a summary. I'll let you see the ending of this film for yourself to see how things work out. So here are my thoughts on Tokyo Joe. It was released in 1949. It was directed by Stuart Heisler and produced by Columbia Pictures. Going into this, I could definitely sense a little bit of the influence and flavor of Casablanca. Again, you've got Bogart. He's playing a character in a trench coat and a fedora who owns a club in a foreign locale. He's heartbroken over a woman that he has lost. And, there's the same shady characters and authorities, that sort of thing. But it's definitely not the same. And if I'm honest, watching this, the romance just wasn't that passionate here. Bogart's Joe did seem genuinely heartbroken over his lost love, sure, but I never really got the sense that she felt the same. In fact, she seems more or less content to move on with her current husband and to be done with Joe. In scenes in this film, like the birthday party, just felt kind of awkward and made Joe seem more like a stranger. Maybe the film just didn't have enough time to develop the relationship. I don't know. Or maybe there just wasn't that connection between the two, but that was my impression. The story was an interesting one, and I was engaged to discover how he was going to get out of this sticky situation of, hauling goods for this sketchy businessman while also seemingly interested in a woman that he still loves, but is now married to another man. And I did like seeing that friendship between Bogart's character Joe and Ito, actor Teru Shimada. And the thing is, though, the film starts strong with their friendship, and they seem like good buddies, but then we just don't see as much of his character anymore, which I thought was a little disappointing. But when all was done, I did like the film. And Bogart, to me, he's always a pleasure to watch, even if this isn't one of his greatest films. But again, it was a good story, and I like seeing how everything resolved at the end. And I will say this, I do love the song that is featured in this film, the 1936 standard, These Foolish Things, with lyrics by Eric Moshevitz and music by Jack Strachey. And it's been recorded countless times by various artists like Nat King Cole, Bing Crosby, Billie Holiday, and so on. I actually heard a cover by Rod Stewart that was very well done. I have some linked below. I obviously can't play samples because the mean old YouTube copyright claim monster, but beyond just a lovely melody, it's a song with very vibrant, colorful lyrics like a cigarette that bears a lipstick's traces, an airline ticket to romantic places, and still my heart has wings. These foolish things remind me of you. It's a beautiful song. I love it. I just love the old standards, and it does feature prominently through the movie, which was a treat. So in researching this film, this was apparently one of the first movies allowed to be filmed in post-war Japan. So remember, the U.S. came into the war in 1941, Japan surrendered in 1945. So this film was made in 1948, just 3 years after the war. And while there is some great location footage of Japan that you see in the film, and you guys know me, I love location footage in a movie, it does appear that any footage of Bogart's character Joe was filmed with a body double. For instance, you'll see a guy in a trench and a hat from behind doubling as Bogart on the streets of Japan. Or you'll see Bogart, riding in a rickshaw with what clearly looks like a projection behind him. I enjoyed the performance by Sesui Hayakawa. Again, if I pronounce these wrong, I'm sorry. I'm doing my best. I thought he made an excellent villain in the film. Very cold, very calculating. And a final note, you know me, it was great to see Hugh Beaumont briefly in this film as one of the American officers who was keeping a close eye on Joe. Yes, one of my channel's unspoken goals is to watch and review every single film with Hugh Beaumont because, hey, if I don't, who will? Anyhow, that's my thoughts on the movie Tokyo Joe from 1949. Humphrey Bogart returns to Tokyo seeking a fresh start and finds himself between a lost love and a criminal conspiracy. The film isn't perfect, but I enjoyed it just the same. Some great music and location footage, and I'm usually entertained by anything with Bogart. So, honestly, this was a decent post-war drama, and it's one worth checking out.